Well, week one of this NFL season is in the books. Hope your weekend was a profitable one. Mine was all right, 4-2 on the picks overall, 2-2 in the NFL, got both of those college football games right. We'll try to improve upon that as the year goes along, but hey, I'm not complaining about a winning week, especially in week one. Hate week one, so many unpredictable, crazy results. No result was more unpredictable than the Washington Redskins marching into New Orleans and putting one on the Saints. Hanging 40 points on them. What about Robert Griffin III? In his first NFL game ever, throws for 320 yards. And look, I'll be the first to admit, I was one of the only people who was a little skeptical about how Robert Griffin III was going to do in the NFL, mainly because of the offense he played in college under Art Briles there at Baylor. A very quarterback-friendly offense. It's the type of thing, this year, for example, even with Griffin gone, the beat's going to go on at Baylor. They're once again going to be a high-scoring unit. It's similar to a Mike Leach offense or a June Jones offense. Whichever quarterback plays in this offense is going to look good, is going to put up a lot of numbers. And so I was thinking Griffin might be more of a maybe system quarterback like a Colt Brennan was at Hawaii or a Graham Harrell at Texas Tech. However, he started proving me wrong, and I'll admit when I'm wrong. Anytime I'm wrong, and after week one, I look like I could not be any more wrong. What about that performance? As we said, 320 yards, leading his team to 40 points. Redskins weren't the only team to score 40 points this week. 5 NFL teams in total scored 40 or more points. And even though Washington was the most surprising result overall, beating the Saints, I'd have to say the most surprising team to put up 40 points was the New York Jets. Jets scoring 48 against the Buffalo Bills. Now, of course, there was a defensive touchdown, and it wasn't all offense, but still, 48 points from a Jets team. I mean, most people heading into the week would have probably said the Jets would have to play 3 or 4 games to get to 48. Just goes to show you how meaningless preseason football is. Every year it's the same thing. Every year we watch the preseason and we try to read more into it than there actually is there, try to make a big deal out of it. It is not a big deal. Really does not matter what happens in preseason. Coaches do not unveil their full game plans. It's very vanilla on both sides of the ball. They don't blitz much on defense. They don't call many plays they would normally call on offense, many plays that attack the defense, and they're designed to fool the defense. And we saw it in prime example with the New York Jets. They threw the ball downfield much more in week one than they had in the preseason. Mark Sanchez, an exceptional game. They did mix in the Tim Tebow Wildcat package, but not that much. I believe Tebow only rushed 5 times in the game. However, the package did what it was designed to do. Two of Mark Sanchez's touchdown passes came directly after Wildcat plays. So, I mean, what Tony Sparano wants to do, what Rex Ryan wants to do, at least what they've said they want to do, is sort of confuse the defense, give them another look, something else they have to prepare for. That's exactly what happened. Tim Tebow running the game, run one of those Wildcat plays. He run out of the game. Mark Sanchez came in, threw the ball downfield for a touchdown. That is just the way the Jets had envisioned it when they dreamed up this 2-quarterback system, when they signed Tim Tebow. Worked to perfection in week one. Again, it's only week one, but still, the Jets scoring 48 points, one of the big surprises of the week. Those other teams that scored 40, again, 5 teams in total. We already talked about the Redskins and the Jets. Chicago, Baltimore, and Atlanta. Out of those 3 teams, the team I was most surprised got to 40 was the Atlanta Falcons, mainly because of their opposition. The Kansas City Chiefs were 7-9 last year. I expected them to be improved this year, and they were playing at home, hosting the Falcons week one. And Kansas City, really, they hang their hat on that defense. Pretty good defense out there in Kansas City. Their head coach, Romeo Crennel, a defensive coach. They have most everybody returning from that unit. They got safety Eric Berry, one of their best players, back from injury after missing most of last year. So very surprised to see the Atlanta Falcons hang 40 points on Kansas City in Kansas City. If I were a Chiefs fan, I would be very, very concerned about that team this year after seeing that game. We shall see. We'll get to our Week 2 preview and talk a little more about the Chiefs here a little later. Now, the Bears hung up a big number on the Colts. That wasn't that surprising. Baltimore Ravens, last night on Monday night. If you did not see that, Joe Flacco absolutely picked apart the Cincinnati Bengals. Bengals had a good defense in their own right last year, 7th in the league in total defense. They did have some injury issues at the cornerback position, so we'll see if that was more the fault of the Bengals defense or if that really is a sign that Joe Flacco is becoming the guy and the Ravens offense, as the defense ages and declines, will the Ravens offense step up there and pick up the slack? Certainly looked last night like they would. In the other Monday night game last night, don't know if you saw it, Oakland Raiders going down to the San Diego Chargers. Same old Oakland Raiders. I said in the game preview yesterday, really didn't know what to expect from Oakland, and it's true. Before I watched that game, I was talking to a friend of mine, and I said, Honestly, Oakland, the only team in the league, I would not be surprised if they won 11 games, and I would not be surprised if they lost 11 games. And I mean that, and that held true. Last night, even though a new coaching staff, Dennis Allen, it's a new era there in Oakland, looked like the same old Raiders, killing themselves with untimely penalties. Their long snapper got injured, new guy came in, resulted in several botched punts. The Raiders basically gave that game to the Chargers. You could see in watching that game all the talent that Oakland has, particularly on offense. And they have a chance to be an exceptional offense this year. Darren McFadden, what a player that guy is. I know his stats weren't that great as far as rushing, just didn't get that many chances. I believe he only got 12 carries or something. They threw him the ball plenty. Listen, if he stays healthy, this guy is a top 5 type back. Carson Palmer looked pretty good to me. Again, the Raiders just shooting themselves in the foot, killing themselves with silly mistakes. Same old Oakland Raiders. If you didn't know there was a new coaching staff, you would think they just rolled on just like they did last year and the year before. Some other results I want to talk about. Week 1, San Francisco 49ers, what about them heading into Green Bay and putting one on the Green Bay Packers? Green Bay looked unbeatable last year, 15-1 in the regular season. Really, until they lost to the Giants in the playoffs, it looked like who is going to beat this team? Well, San Francisco just looked like the better team. They went up there, punched Green Bay in the mouth, just beat them, looked like the better team, won that game. And it's another reminder, watching those San Francisco 49ers play. And still, not enough people, I don't think, are saying this. You still hear a lot of people, because there were so many teams that scored 40 points, 5 teams scoring 40 more points in this week 1. Hear a lot of people saying, oh, it's a new NFL, offense. Anyone who says that defense and running the ball is no longer important, anyone who says you have to have a great passing attack to win in today's NFL, that is total hogwash. If you do not believe that, watch the San Francisco 49ers play. Watch what they did to Green Bay. What you had there, that was a clash of the new style NFL, the Green Bay Packers, who led the league in scoring last year, 35 points a game. Aaron Rodgers, league MVP. Yet their defense was worst in the league, 32nd in the league. But they are the new NFL. You don't need defense. You don't need to run the ball. Cedric Benson in this game against 49ers, he was the only running back who got any carries, and I believe he rushed for less than 20 yards total in the game. So Green Bay just pass. They abandon the run. They don't play defense. San Francisco 49ers, on the other hand, their offense predicated on that power running game. They play great defense. They asked Alex Smith, their quarterback, to do just enough, more of a game manager. I know quarterbacks consider that an insult, but Smith's been managing these games very well for the 49ers. Did it again the other day. Randy Moss, their new addition at wide receiver, looked good. But still, this team is a run-first, play-defense-first team. And you see, when you got a Packers team that was soft, the Packers looked soft. The Niners, just a better team, a tougher team, went in there and pushed them around. So you don't think playing defense or running the ball works anymore in the NFL? Watch the San Francisco 49ers. And we'll get a chance to watch them this week because they have a very interesting game, interesting primetime game this coming week. But again, we'll get to that a little later. Also, we can't talk about Week 1 without talking about Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning's return to the NFL, his debut for the Denver Broncos. They beat the Pittsburgh Steelers in that primetime game on Sunday night that set all types of viewership records. Everybody, just about everybody in this country was watching that football game. Sad news for me, I was on Pittsburgh in that game, and if Pittsburgh had won, it would have been a great weekend for me. I was already, I'd only lost one game at that point, so I was 4-1 on the picks already. Had a chance to go 5-1, really make it a profitable weekend. Unfortunately, the Steelers did not do it. I thought the Steelers defense would really come out there with something to prove. Beginning of the game, it looked sort of like I expected it to look. Steelers defense limiting Peyton and Peyton Manning and that Broncos offense. However, it looked like once Manning sort of got his legs under him, it was same old Peyton Manning. True, he might not have quite as much zip on those balls. It was clear that Ben Roethlisberger was the stronger arm to the two quarterbacks. You could see when the ball came out of Roethlisberger's hands, it had more on it than when it came out of Manning's hands. However, who cares? Manning's arm's plenty strong enough. Looked like same old Manning. What about, running the offense? It looked nothing like the Denver offense from last year, or nothing like the Denver offense from the year before last when Mike McCoy, who's still the offensive coordinator, he was coordinating that offense even before Tim Tebow came and they had to change it around last year. Just wonder how, Mike McCoy, the offensive coordinator, really having to set his professional pride aside here. Because anybody who thinks that Peyton Manning was going to come into Denver and it was going to sort of be a blend of what he did in Indianapolis or what Mike McCoy is doing in Denver, this is Peyton Manning's offense. Clearly Peyton Manning's offense. I'd like to know what percentage of the plays he called the play or changed the play at line of scrimmage. Seemed like every play. I mean, I saw Mike McCoy over there with a headset, talking over the headset, so I'm on the sidelines. I'd like to know just what in the world he was doing. I mean, clearly wasn't calling plays, or if he was calling plays, Manning was changing every single play he called at the line of scrimmage. Vintage Peyton Manning, couldn't have been more impressed with him. Understandably, Denver is now a Super Bowl favorite, maybe the favorite in the AFC West. I've said the San Diego Chargers were my pick to win the AFC West, but even though the Chargers beat the Oakland Raiders last night, did not think they looked quite as good as Denver. I know it's week one, long season ahead of us, was really, really impressed with Denver. Hey, I mean, after Manning got his legs under him, the Broncos scored the last 4 times they had the ball. I mean, towards the end of that game, if you watch it in the second half, I mean, Pittsburgh's defense, forget about it. They were the number 1 defense in the league last year. It was like they weren't even there. I mean, Denver was just going right through them, going right down the field. Peyton Manning, when he's at his best, and I know Tom Brady's won more Super Bowls, I know Aaron Rodgers and Drew Brees recently have gotten more credit, but for my money, over the last 10 or 15 years when Peyton Manning is on, there is just no better quarterback in the league, period. And we were all wondering, would he be that guy after over a year away from the game, after the neck surgeries? I'd have to say, if Sunday night is any indication, yes, he is that guy. Great news for Denver Broncos fans. Could be bad news for the rest of the AFC West. We shall see. In terms of the betting report this past weekend, dead split, 8-8 in terms of favorites and underdogs. Favorites covered 8 times, underdogs covered 8 times. Just goes to show you those odds makers are pretty good. Now, public did not as good in these games. 6-10 total for the public favorites. Now that's to be expected, really. Listen, in sports betting, not only NFL betting, sports betting in general, you never want to follow the crowd. The reason your bookmaker is driving around in a BMW is all these guys who hear somebody say something at the bar and they say, hey, you know what, that sounds pretty good. I'll get on to that. As a matter of fact, the more and more the public is on one side of a game, the more and more it should scare you away from that side and you should get on the other side. Public did have a tough weekend this weekend. The less popular picks were winners. And in the NFL games, again, I was 2-2 in these NFL games, and my losers were public picks. I was on the Saints. I knew everybody was piling on the Saints, but still, I could not see the Saints losing to Washington. I tell you the truth, I thought the Saints were going to run Washington right out of the building. Clearly, I underestimated the Washington Redskins and what Robert Griffin was going to be able to do in his first week. But just goes to show you, always be careful, be cognizant of the betting patterns, of where the public money is going. Here at BETDAQ NFL, we'll be trying to keep you up to date with that as the week goes along. Obviously, it's a little too early in the week this week to be knowing things like that. But as the week goes along, we'll bring you some of that information. You need to take all things into consideration before placing your bets. And like I said, I hope week 1 was a profitable week for you. And even if it was, I hope this next week, week 2, is going to be even better.